Look at this chest, man. It's clean shaved. Ah, this summer, this heat. Fuck that. Now, chapter 20. When Abel gave paid Valency her first month's wages, which he did promptly, in bells, raking with the color of tobacco and whiskey. Valency went to Derwood and spent every cent of it. She wore a pretty green crepe dress with a girdle of crimson beads at a bargain sale, a pair of silk stockings to match, and a little crinkled green hat with a crimson rose in it. She even bought a foolish little berry-boned and belaced nightgown. She passed the house on Elm Street twice, whereas she never even thought about it as home. We saw no one. No doubt her mother was sitting in the room this lovely June evening, playing solitaire and cheating. Valency knew that Mrs. Frederick always cheated. She never lost a game. Most of the people Valency met looked at her seriously and passed her with a cool nod. Nobody stopped to speak with her. Don't sound that I know, but it is the moment. It's the Hell's Paradise song. Valency put on her green dress when she got home. Then she took it off again. She felt so miserably undressed in its low neck and short sleeves, and that low crimson girdle around the hips seemed positively indecent. She hung it up in the closet, feeling flatly that she had wasted her money. She would never have the courage to wear that dress. John Foster's arraignment of fear had no power to stiffen her against this. And this one thing, habit and custom were still all powerful. Yet she sighed as she went down to meet Bonnie Snaith in her old snuff brown silk. That grim thing had been very becoming. She had seen so much in her one ashamed glance. Above it, her eyes had looked like old, odd brown jewels, and the girdle had given her flat figure an entirely different appearance. She wished she could have left it on, but there were some things John Foster did not know. Even Sunday evening, Valency went to the little Free Methodist church in a valley on the edge of Upbeck, a spireless little grey building among the pines with a few sunken graves and mosaic gravestones in the small, paling encircled grass ground square beside it. She liked the minister who preached there. He was so simple and sincere. An old man who lived in Port Lawrence and came out by the lake in a little disappearing propeller boat to give a free service to the people of the small, stony farms of the hills, who would otherwise never have heard any gospel message. She liked this simple service and the fervent singing. She liked to sit by the open window and look out into the pine woods. The congregation was always small. Ephraim Methodists were few in number, poor and generally illiterate, but Wesley loved those Sunday evenings. For the first time in her life, She liked going to church. The rumor reached Deerwood that she had turned Free Methodist and sent Mrs. Frederick to bed for a day. But Valency had not turned anything. She went to the church because she liked it and because in some inexplicable way it did her good. Old Mr. Towers believed exactly what he preached and somehow it made a tremendous difference. Oddly enough, Roaring Abel disapproved of her going to the Hill Church as strongly as Miss Frederick herself could have done. He had no use of Free Methodists. He was a Presbyterian. But Valency went in spite of him. Well, here, something worse than that about her son. Uncle Benjamin predicted globally. They did. Valency could not quite explain, even to herself, just why she wanted to go to that party. It was a dance up back at Chidley Corners, and dances at Chidley Corners were not, as a rule, the sort of assemblies where well brought up young ladies were found. Valency knew it was coming off, for Roaring Abel had been engaged as one of the fiddlers. But the idea of going had never occurred to her until Roaring Abel himself broached it at supper. You come with me to the dance, he ordered. It will do you good. Put some color in your face. You look peaked. You want something to liven you up. Valency found herself suddenly wanting to go. She knew nothing at all of what dances at Chidley Corners were apt to be like. Her idea of dances had been fashioned on the correct affairs that went by that name in Sherwood and Port Lawrence. Of course she knew the Cornices dance wouldn't be just like them. Much more informal, of course, but so much the more interesting. Why shouldn't she go? Sissy was in a week of apparent health and improvement. She wouldn't mind staying alone in the least. She entreated Valency to go if she wanted to, and Valency didn't want to go. She went to her room to dress. A rage against the snuff brown silk seized her. Wear that to a party? Never. Wear to a party? Never. Never. She pulled her green crepe from its hanger and put it on ferociously. It was nonsense to feel so naked. Just because her neck and arms were bare. That was just her old maidishness. She would not be ridden by it, or went the dress, the slippers. It was the first time she had worn a pretty dress since the organdies of her early teens, and they had never made her look like this. If she only had a necklace or something, she wouldn't feel so bare then. She ran down to the garden. There were clovers there, red crimson things, growing in the long grass. Valency gathered handfuls of them and strung them on a cord. Fastened above her neck, they gave her the comfortable sensation of a collar and were oddly becoming. Another circlet of them went round her hair, dressed in the low puffs that became her. Excitement brought those faint pink stains to her face. She flung on her coat and pulled the little twisty hat over her hair. You look so nice and different, dear, said Sissy, like a green moonbeam with a gleam of red in it, if there could be such a thing. Valency stooped to kiss her. I don't feel right about leaving you alone, Sissy. Oh, I'll be all right. I feel better tonight than I have for a long while. I've been feeling badly to see you sticking here so closely on my count. I hope you'll have an answer. I never was at a party at the corners, but I used to go sometimes, long ago, to dances and back. We always had good times, and you needn't be afraid of father being drunk tonight. He never drinks when he engages to play for a party. But there may be liquor. What will you do if it gets rough? Nobody will molest me. Not seriously, I suppose. Father would not see that. Would see to that. Father would see to that. But it might be noisy and unpleasant. Where is your thing going? I won't mind. I'm only going as a look around. I don't expect to dance. I just want to see what a party up is like. I've never seen anything except a chorus derelict. Susie smiled rather dubiously. She knew much better than Valency what a party up back might be like if there should be liquor. But again, there might not be. I hope you'll enjoy it, dear, she repeated. Valency enjoyed the drive there. They went early, for it was 12 miles to Cheltenham Corners, and they had to go in Abels's old ragtop buggy. The road was rough and rocky, like most Muskoka roads, but full of the austere charm of northern woods. It wound through beautiful, towering pines that were ranks of enchantment in the June sunset, and over the curious Jade Green rivers of Muskoka, fringed by aspens that were always quivering with some supernal joy. Roaring Abel was excellent company too. He knew all the stories and legends of the wild, beautiful upback, and he told them to Valency as they drove along. Valency had several fits of inward laughter over what Uncle Benjamin and Uncle Wellington, Adele, what the hell is that? I don't know, would feel and think and say if they saw her driving with Roaring Abel in that terrible buggy to a dance at Chadley Corners. At first, the dance was quite enough, and Valence was amused and entertained. She even danced twice herself with a couple of nice upback boys who danced beautifully and told her she did too. Another compliment came her way, not a very subtle one, perhaps, but Valence had too few compliments in life to be overnight on that point. She overheard two of the upback young men talking about her in the dark lean-to behind her. Know who that girl in green is? Nope. Guess she is from the outfit. The poet, maybe. Got a stylish look to her. Not bad, but cute looking, I'll say. Do you ever such eyes? Do you ever see such eyes? The big room was decorated with pine, fir boughs, lighted by Chinese lanterns. The floor was waxed, and the roaring Abel's fiddle, pouring under his skilled touch, worked magic. The upback girls were pretty and prettily dressed. Vanessa thought it the nicest party she had ever attended. By 11 o'clock, she had changed her mind. A new crowd had arrived, a crowd unmistakably drunk. Whiskey began to circulate freely, Very soon, almost all the men were partly drunk. Those in the porch and outside around the door began howling. Come on, Leas, continued to haul them. The room grew noisy and raking. Quarrels started up here and there. Bad language and obscene songs were heard. The girls swung rudely in the dances, became disheveled and tired. Valency, alone in her coat, was feeling disgusted and repentant. Why had she ever come to such a place? Freedom and independence were all very well, but one should not be a little fool. But she might have known what it would be like. She might have taken warning from Sissy's guarded sentences. Her head was aching. She was sick of the whole thing. But what could she do? She must stay to the end. Abel could not live till then, and that would probably be not till 3 or 4 in the morning. The new influx of boys had left the girls, 4 in the minority and partners, were scarce. Valency has pestered with invitations to dance. She refused them all shortly, and some of her refusals were not well taken. There were muttered oaths and sullen looks. Across the room, she saw a group of the strangers talking together and glancing meaningly at her. What were they plotting? It was at this moment that she saw Barney and Snaith looking in over her heads of the crowd at the doorway. Well, she had 2 distinct convictions. One was that she was quite safe now, and other was that this was why she had wanted to come to the dance. It had been such an absurd hope that she had not recognized it before. But now she knew she had come because of the possibility that Barney might be there too. She thought that perhaps she ought to be ashamed of this, but she wasn't. After her feeling of relief, her next feeling was one of annoyance with Barney for coming there unshaved. Surely he might have enough self respect to groom himself up decently when he went to a party. There he was, bareheaded, pressed with a chin, in his old trousers, in his blue homespun shirt, not even a coat. Valencia could have shaken him in her anger. No wonder people believed everything bad of him. But she wasn't afraid any longer. One of the whispering group left his comrades and came across the room to her. Through the whirling couples that now filled it uncomfortably. He was a tall, broad-shouldered fellow, not ill-dressed or ill-looking, but unmistakably half-drunk. He asked Valency to dance. Valency declined civilly. His face turned livid. He threw his arm about her and pulled her to him. His hard, viscid breath burned her face. We won't have fine lady airs here, my girl. If you ain't too good to come here, you ain't too good to dance with us. Me and my pals have been watching you. Would you guys to give us each a turn and a kiss to boot? Wellesley tried desperately and vainly to free herself. She was being dragged out into the maze of shouting, stamping, yelling dancers. The next moment, the man who held her went staggering across the room from a neatly planted blow on the jaw, knocking down rolling couples as he went. Wellesley felt her arm grasped. This way, quick, said Barney. He swung her out through the open window behind them, vaulted lightly over the sill, caught her hand. Quick, we must run for it, they'll be after us. Valency ran as she had never run before, Clinton tied to Barney's hand, wondering why she did not drop dead in such a mad scamper. Suppose she did. What a scandal it would make for her poor people. For the first time, Valency felt a little sorry for them. Also, she felt glad that she had escaped from that horrible rope. Also, glad that she was holding tight to Barney's hand. Her feelings were badly mixed, and she had never had so many in such a brief time in her life. They finally reached a quiet corner in the pine woods. The pursuit had taken a different direction, and the whoops and yells behind them were growing faint. Valency, out of breath, the crazily beating heart, collapsed on the trunk of a fallen pine. Thanks, she gasped. What a goose you were to come to such a place, said Bonnie. Bonnie. I didn't know it would be like this, protested Valency. You should have known, Chidley Connors. It was just a name to me. Valency knew Barney could not realize how ignorant she was of the regions up back. She had lived in Deerwood all her life, and of course, he supposed she knew. He didn't know how she had been brought up. There was no use of trying to explain. When I drifted in at Abels's this evening, and Sissy told me you'd come here, I was amazed. I was amazed and downright scared. Sissy told me she was worried about you, but hadn't liked to say anything to dissuade you for fear you'd think she was thinking selfishly about herself. So I came on up here instead of going to Deerwood. Whereas I felt a sudden delightful glow irradiating soul and body under the dark pines. So he had actually come up to look after her. As soon as they stopped hunting for us, we'll sneak round to the Muskoka Road. I left Lady Jane down there. I'll take you home. I suppose you had enough of a party. Quite, said Valency meekly. The first half of the way home, neither of them said anything. It would not have been much use. Lady Jane made so much noise they could not have heard each other. Anyway, Valency did not feel conversationally inclined. She was ashamed of the whole affair, ashamed of her folly in going, ashamed of being found in such a place by Barney Snape. By Barney Snape, reputed jailbreaker, infidel, forger, and defaulter. Valency's lips twitched in the darkness as she thought of it, but she was ashamed. And yet, she was enjoying herself. It was full of a strange exultation. Bumping on that rough road beside Barney Snape, the big trees shot by them. The tall mulleins stood up along the road and stiff. Orderly ranks like companies of soldiers, the thistles looked like drunken fairies or tipsy elders as their car lights passed on them. This was the first time she had even been in a car. After all, she liked it. She was not in the least afraid. With Barney at the wheel, her spirits rose rapidly as they tore along. She ceased to feel ashamed. She ceased to feel anything except that she was part of a comet rushing gloriously through a night of space. Through the night of space. All at once, just where the pine would fade out of the scrub barrens, Lady Jane became quiet. Too quiet. Lady Jane slowed down quietly and stopped. Barney uttered an aghast exclamation, got out, investigated, came apologetically back. I'm a doddering idiot. Out of gas. I knew I was short when I left home, but I meant to fill up in Deadwood. Then I forgot all about it in my hurry to get to the corners. What can we do? Asked Wells coolly. I don't know. There's no gas nearer than Deerwood, 9 miles away, and I don't dare leave you here. There are always tramps on this road, and some of those crazy fools back at the corners may come straggling along presently. There were boys there from the port, as far as I can see. The best thing to do is, for us, just to sit patiently there, here, until some car comes along and lands us enough gas to get to roaring abuses with. Well, what's the matter with that? Said Wells. We may have to sit here all night, said Bonnie. I don't mind, said Valency. Bonnie gave a short laugh. If you don't, I did not. I haven't any reputation to lose. All right, said Valency comfortably. How much time has been passed, man? 26. Should I read another chapter? I should, yes. Chapter 11. We'll just sit here, said Bonnie. And if we think of anything worthwhile saying, we'll say it. Otherwise, not. Don't imagine you're bound to talk to me. John Foster says, quoted Valency, if you can sit in silence with a person for half an hour, yet be entirely comfortable, you and that person can be friends. If you cannot, friends, you'll never be. And you need not waste time in trying. Evidently, John Foster says a sensible thing once in a while, conceded Bonnie. They sat in silence for a long while. Little rabbits hopped across the road. Once or twice, and all laughed out delightfully. The road beyond them was fringed with the woven shadow lace of trees. Away off to the southwest, the sky was full of silvery little cirrus clouds above the spot where Barnes Island must be. Willis was powerfully happy. Some things dawn on you slowly. Some things come by lightning flashes. Once he had a lightning flash, she knew quite well now that she loved Bonnie. Yesterday she had been all her own. Now she was this man's. Yet he had done nothing, said nothing. He had not even looked at her as a woman. But that didn't matter. Nor did it matter what he was or what he had done. She loved him without any reservations. Everything in her went on all later. She had no wish to stifle or dishonor her love. She seemed to be his so absolutely that thought apart from him. Thought in which he did not predominate was an impossibility. She had realized quite simply and fully that she loved him in the moment when he was leaning on the car door, explaining that Lady Jane had no gas. She had looked deep into his eyes in the moonlight and had known. In just that infinitesimal space of time, everything was changed. All things passed away and all things became new. She was no longer unimportant, little old maid Venus telling. She was a woman full of love, therefore rich and significant, justified to herself. Life was no longer empty and futile, and death could cheat her of nothing. Love had cast out her last fear. Love, what a searing, torturing, intolerably sweet thing it was. This possession of body, soul, and mind, with something at its core as fine and remote, as purely spiritual, as the tiny blue spark in the heart of the unbreakable diamond. No dream had ever been like this. She was no longer solitary. She was one of a vast sisterhood. All the men who had ever loved in the world. Barney need never know it. Though she would not in the least have minded his knowing, but she knew it, and it made a tremendous difference to her. That's to love. She did not ask to be loved. It was rapture enough just to sit there beside him in silence, alone in the summer night, in the white splendor of moonshine, with the wind blowing down on them out of the pine woods. She had always envied the wind. So free, blowing where it listed. Through the hills, over the lakes, what a tame, what a zip it, what a magic of adventure. Where she felt as if she had exchanged her sharp, worn soul for a fresh one. Fire new from the workshop of the gods. As far back as she could look, life had been dull, colorless, savorless. Just look right there. Now she had come to a little patch of violets, purple and fragrant, hers for the plucking. No matter who or what had been in Barney's past, no matter who or what might be in his future, no one else could ever have this perfect power. She surrendered herself utterly to the charm of the moment. I would dream of ballooning, said Barney suddenly. No, said Elsie. I do, often, dream of sailing through the clouds, seeing the glories of sunset, spending hours in the midst of a terrific storm, with lightning playing above and below you, skimming above a silver cloud floor, and full moon. Wonderful! It does sound so, said Williamson. I've stayed on Earth in my dreams. She told him about her blue castle. It was perfect. It was so easy to tell Barney things. One felt she understood everything, even the things you didn't tell her. Then she told him a little of her existence before she came to Roaring Gables. She wanted him to see why she had gone to the dance up back. You see, I've never had any real life, she said. I've just breathed. Every door has always been shut to me. But you're still young, said Barney. Oh, I know. Yes, I'm still young, but that's so different from young, said Wellesley bitterly. For a moment, she was tempted to tell Barney why her ears had nothing to do with the future, but she did not. She was not going to think of death tonight. Though I never was really young, she went on. Until tonight, she added in her heart, I never had a life like other girls. You couldn't understand. Why? She had a desperate desire that Barney should know the worst about her. I didn't even love my mother. Isn't it awful that I don't love my mother? Rather awful, said Barney dryly. Oh, she didn't know it. She took my love for granted, and I wasn't any use. or comfort to her or anybody. I was just a vegetable and I got tired of it. That's why I came to keep house for Mr. Gay and look after Sasay. And I suppose your people thought you'd gone mad. They did, and do, literally, said Valency. But it's a comfort to them. They'd rather believe me mad than bad. There's no other alternative. But I've been living since I came to Mr. Gay's. It's been a delightful experience. I suppose I'll pay for it when I have to go back. But I'll have had it. That's true, said Bonnie. If you buy your experience, it's your own. It's no matter how much you pay for it. Somebody else's experience can never be yours. Well, it's a funny old world. Do you think it really is old? It really is old. As well as it dreamily. I never believed that in June. It seems so young tonight. Somehow, in that quivering moonlight, like a young white girl waiting. Moonlight here on the verge of Upback is different from moonlight anywhere else. Agreed, Bonnie. It always makes me feel so plain somehow, body and soul. And of course, the age of gold always comes back in spring. It was 10 o'clock now. A dragon of black cloud ate up the moon. The spring air grew chill. Valency shivered. Valency shivered. Bonnie reached back into the innards of Lady Jane and clawed up an old tobacco-scented overcoat. Put that on, he ordered. Don't you want it yourself? Protested Valency. No, I'm not gonna have you catching cold on my hands. Oh, I won't catch cold. I haven't had a cold since I came to Mr. Gates. Though I've done the foolish things. It's funny too. I used to have them all the time. I feel so selfish taking your coat. You says 3 times. No use winding up your experience back with gripped pneumonia. He pulled it up tight about her throat and buttoned it on her. Valency submitted with secret delight. How nice it was to have someone look after you so. She snuggled down into the tobacco folds and wished the night could last forever. 10 minutes later, a car swooped down on them, up back. Barney sprang from Lady Jane and waved his hand. The car came up to a stop beside them. Valency saw Uncle Valentine and Olive gazing at her in horror from it. So Uncle Valentine had got a car, and he must have been spending the evening up at Miss Joyce's cousin Harbert. Valency almost laughed aloud at the expression on his face as he recognized her. The pompous, viscous old humbug. Can you let me have enough gas to take me to Deerwood? Bonnie was asking politely. But Uncle Wellington was not attending to him. Valency, how came you here? He said sternly. By chance or God's grace, said Valency. What is God's grace? God's blessing. With this jailbird at 10 o'clock at night, said Uncle Wellington. Well, as a gentleman, the moon had escaped from its dragon, and in its light her eyes were full of deviltry. Are you a jailbird? Does it matter? Said Bonnie, gleams of fun in his eyes. Not to me. I only ask out of curiosity, continued Valency. Then I won't tell you. I never satisfy curiosity. He turned to Uncle Wellington, and his voice changed subtly. Mr. Starling, I asked you if you could let me have some gas. If you can, well, I'm good. If not, We are only delaying you unnecessarily. Uncle Wellington is in a horrible dilemma to give us to this shameless pair, but not to give it to them. To go away and leave them there in the mischoice words until they left. Likely, it was better to give it to them and let them get out of sight before anyone else saw them. Got anything to get gas in? He grunted surely. Surely. Barnett produced a 2-gallon measure from Lady Jane. The two men went to the rear of the stalling car and began manipulating the tap. Valence stole sly glances at Olive over the collar of Barney's coat. Olive was sitting grimly, staring straight ahead with an outraged expression. She did not mean to take any notice of Valency. Olive had her own secret reasons of feeling outraged. Cecil had been endeavored lately, and of course had heard all about Valency. He had agreed. He agreed that her mind was deranged and was exceedingly anxious to find out where the derangement had been inherited. It was a serious thing to have in the family. Very serious thing. One had to think of one's descendants. She got it from the Wensberers, said Olive positively. There's nothing like that in this toilet. Nothing. Nothing. I hope not. I certainly hope not. Cecile had responses dubiously. But then, to go out as a servant, for that is what it practically amounts to. Because poor Olive felt the implication. The Port Lawrence prices were not accustomed to ally themselves with families whose members rugged out. Valency could not resist temptation. She leaned forward. Olive, does it hurt? Olive bit stiffly. This what hurt? Looking like that. For a moment, Olive resolved she would take no further notice of Valency. Then duty came uppermost. She must not miss the opportunity. Just, she implored, leaning forward also. Won't you come home tonight? Valency yawned. You sound like a revival meeting, she said. You really do. If you'll come back, all will be forgiven. Yes, said Olive eagerly. Wouldn't it be splendid if she could induce the prodigal daughter to return? We'll never cost it up to you. Just, there are nights when I cannot sleep for thinking of you. And me having the time of my life, said Valency, laughing. Just, I can't believe you're back. I've always said you couldn't be back. I don't believe I can be, said Valency. I'm afraid I'm hopelessly proper. I've been sitting here for 3 hours with Monisnave, and he hasn't even tried to kiss me. I wouldn't have minded if he had Olive. Valency was still leaning forward. Her little head, with its crimson rose, was tilted down over one eye. Olive stared. In the moonlight, Valency's eyes. Valency's smile. What had happened to Valency? She looked not pretty. Just couldn't be pretty, but provocative, fascinating. Yes, abominably so. Olive drew back. It was beneath her dignity to say more. After all, Valency must be both mad and wet. Thanks, that's enough, said Barney behind the car. Much obliged. Mr. Starling, 2 gallons, 70 cents. Thank you. Uncle Wellington climbed foolishly and feebly into his car. He wanted to give Snaith a piece of his mind. Peace, not pace. Piece. Peace. But dare not. Who knew what the creature might do if provoked? No doubt he carried firearms. Uncle Wellington looked indecisively at Valency. Valency had turned her back on him and was watching Barney poured the gas into Lady Jane's mouth. "Drive on," said Olive decisively. "There's no use in waiting here. Let me tell you what she said to me." The little hussy, the shameless little hussy, sighed Uncle Wellington. "Okay, gentlemen, this ends here. I would like to take a leave gently. Just adjust myself. Fine, man. See you. Catch you later, man. Okay, buddy.